a time of food movement, such as eating local and organic, I feel that seafood gets left out of the equation, and the impacts of human seafood consumption is rarely discussed. Every year, Americans eat about 16 pounds of seafood, and I think most would be surprised to hear that 80% of fish and 90% of shrimp is imported. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, yes. Tonight I'm going to talk about why being aware of where your seafood comes from is important. There's a complicated myriad of issues surrounding global fishery issues that could keep me talking all night, but I'm going to use shrimp, the most widely consumed seafood here in the U.S., as an example of why we should be concerned, both environmentally as well as from a health perspective, where your seafood comes from. The main concern for all fisheries is sustainability. Sustainable seafood represents a healthy relationship with the ocean and the environment that can endure forever. When humans consume seafood, we leave an indelible mark on the ecosystem. It is critically important that I'm just going to skip this paragraph. It's a bad paragraph. I was trying to make it to 5 minutes, so, all right. Here in the U.S., the domestic fishery, sustainability is the standard. Shrimp fishing used to be highly destructive to the ecosystem and not well regulated till the 1976 Magnuson-Stevens Fisheries Act. This act has been working to improve fisheries while decreasing the impacts to the ecosystem. As an example, 20 years ago, the discard ratio for shrimp fishing was 30-1. This means that 30 pounds of bycatch, that's other sea creatures besides shrimp, was caught and thrown away to land a pound of shrimp. Due to changes in regulations and technology, this ratio is down to about 4-1 today. Unfortunately, many places where imported fish comes from has dismal regulations. In some areas, wild shrimp is caught faster than reproduction can occur, and this is leading to overfishing. And there are poor regulations on fishing gear, which has led global shrimp populations to plummet. In the mid-1990s, the U.S. shrimp fishery struggled to meet the demand of American consumers. This led to imports from Asia being a more plentiful and cheaper resource. This is where most shrimp today is farmed. I'm sorry. These days, this is where the bulk of the shrimp that we consume comes from. This is where you should be concerned for your health. The shrimp farming is done in ponds or pens. This is often done in deplorable conditions with antibiotics, growth hormones, and exposure to a lot of substances that are banned here in the U.S. Shrimp from multiple farms are frozen and shipped in blocks, making it difficult to track any origins of these packages. This is all done at facilities with generally questionable conditions. Between the U.S. agencies responsible for inspecting imported seafood, less than 5% actually gets physically inspected, and less than 1% of that is inspected for contamination. This means that a lot of shrimp is making its way into grocery stores that potentially contain a lot of things that are not good for your health. The conditions that shrimp are farmed in are also not the only issue surrounding imported seafood. In 2013, investigations showed that boats fishing for marine life, for fish used to feed the shrimp in the farms, used forced labor and debt bondage. Immigrants from these boats were forced to work 20-hour days, kept awake with amphetamines, and abused. This isn't just an allegation either. CMP Foods, the world's biggest shrimp farmer, whose clients include Walmart and Costco, have conceded that slavery is part of the supply chain. I realize this point is a little bit extreme, but as with other industries that have faced similar issues, it all boils down to us, the consumers. Shrimp is being farmed because there is a demand. I'm certainly not advocating that we all stop eating seafood. Millions of people worldwide depend on fisheries-related income. The point I'm hoping to make is that we need to choose smartly when we are buying seafood. You may be wondering how we make those smart choices. First of all, be prepared to pay a little bit more. Think of it as buying a product from the organic section in the food store. Secondly, find out where the product is from. If it's harvested here in the U.S., it's inherently sustainable due to our rigorous management processes. Not all imported seafood is bad, though. There are several credible resources, such as FishWatch, with up-to-date information on which seafood is being harvested sustainably. There is also an app called Seafood Watch. This allows you to have a list of what is being harvested sustainably with you when you go to restaurants and dine and shop at the grocery store. Thirdly, and most importantly,